Want to find out why this is the best Diamondback build and why this build trumps anyone else? Because this build is the only build that will allow you to enjoy two things instead of just one. Asiva, this is LaserBolt, and welcome guys to another Division 2 build video. In today's video guys, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new exotic called Diamondback. And I'm going to be telling you guys why this build trumps any other build out there. The reason why is because this build is going to utilize two important things. One is the exotic rifle, the Diamondback. And number two, it's going to allow you to use your skills. Now, I've seen multiple builds out there where everybody's just going ahead and telling you to stack a bunch of critical hit damage. And yes, that is a really good build if you just want to output DPS. But what's the point of you outputting DPS if you're going to be going down and not being able to take out multiple enemies if you don't have skills? That's why I say this build is the best one and it trumps any other build out there. But before we dive into the build, I want to remind you guys about our free giveaway. We're giving away 2 free copies of Borderlands 3 for the console or system of your choice. To participate, it's super easy. All you got to do is click the link down below where it says Join Bolt Nation, and you guys will be automatically entered. So good luck to everyone that plans on participating. Now, before we break everything down, I do want to talk to you guys about the Diamondback and, of course, its talents, so you guys could know exactly how we're going to be utilizing this gun. Let's start off with the first talent called Agonizing Bite. Diamondback randomly marks an enemy. Hitting that enemy consumes the mark, guaranteeing a critical hit with plus 20% total damage. A new random enemy is marked afterwards and whenever you reload. So if you guys want to proc this, make sure you guys are constantly reloading with the gun, and that's why having an additional skill but it's so important to this one, because while you're in that reload, you could have your turret take out the enemy. The next talent is called Deep Fangs. This is after hitting 5 marked enemies, gain plus 50 reload speed, plus 20% total damage, and all shots fired are guaranteed critical hits for 10 seconds. And the last talent we have is called Shedding Skin. While drawn each time a round is loaded, gain plus 20 bonus armor for 3 seconds. While holstered, each time you reload or feed your current weapon, gain plus 8% bonus armor for 2 seconds. This is actually a really good holster talent, and I could see multiple builds working with this one. And we'll have multiple builds surrounding the Diamondback, so make sure you guys stay locked on this channel for all those builds that are coming your way. So now that we know how the gun works and we know how the talents are going to be proccing, let's talk about this build and what we're going to need. And we're going to get started, of course, like we always do, with the attributes. What are we supposed to target? What are we looking to obtain? And what should be our main goal when putting this build together? So there's going to be 2 things that are going to be part of a requirement. Like always, let's go ahead and start off with the number 1 priority out of all this one. And we're going to start off in the yellow column. And the number 1 priority here is making sure we at least hit 7 utilities. You want to make sure you hit 7 yellows. That is a requirement. If you could go higher than 7, that's perfectly fine. But you want to make sure that you're able to hit 7. I know it's going to be a little bit difficult putting this build together because you got to have a lot of pieces that work together. But once you put this build together, you guys are going to thank me later, because this is by far the best build you could use for this gun. Because not only will you be able to output more than 1 million DPS with the gunshot, but you're also going to be able to utilize your skills. Now, the other one that we're going to be talking about is the defensive. The defensive doesn't really matter. You really don't care about defense in this particular build. You can leave this at 0. You can leave this as 1. It doesn't really matter what the blue is. But what does matter is, of course, the red. You want to make sure your red is as high as you possibly could get it. If you could get it over 10, that is the ideal. So I'm going to put a plus 10 on this one. So if you could get this plus 10, that is where you guys want to go with this build. You want to make sure you have a high offensive, and you want to make sure that you at least hit the 7 mark for the yellows. Now that we got the attributes out of the way, let's talk about weapons. Of course, we're going to be using as our primary the Diamondback, and we're going to be using our secondary and our sidearm only for the holster talents. Even though our secondary is going to be used, we want to make sure that we're using it. So right here, of course, I'm always going to suggest a military P416, or you could go with an LMG. But overall preference would definitely be going with the assault rifle, the P416. Now, as far as your primary talent, doesn't really matter what you put here. You won't be able to use the 2 best talents, which are Ranger and Optimist. But you could go with something like bread baskets, or you could also go with something with preservation. It all depends, doesn't really matter. But what really matters is the holster talent, and we're going to go with protected deploy. While equipped, this weapon grants 10% bonus armor while deploying a skill. Remember, our defense is 0, so anywhere that we could tap and actually get health back or get armor back, it's definitely going to be a plus, and protected deploy will do that. Now for our third weapon, we're also doesn't really matter what talents we have. The only talent that matters, of course, is the holster talent. And for this one, we're going to be going with protective reload. It says, while equipped, this weapon grants 10% bonus armor while reloading. So anytime you reload, you'll get that 10%. Remember, the Diamondback is also going to give us armor when we're reloading. So we're double dipping on the armor with 2 different talents. Not only are we getting the one from the Diamondback, but we're also getting the protective reload from our sidearm as well. All right, so now that we got the weapons out of the way, let's talk about armor. What are we going to be using? And for our mask, we're going to be going with a wave and wear mask. The reason we're going with a wave and wear mask is because we're going to be getting a plus 7% critical hit damage. And remember, for this gun, critical hit damage is king. Critical hit chance doesn't really matter. You want to make sure that when you're putting this build together, you're getting as much critical hit damage as you possibly can. At the end of the video, I'll tell you guys how much I have with this particular build, but your main priority here, guys, is getting critical hit damage as much as you possibly can, guys. Once again, get as much critical damage as you can. So we're going with the wave and wear mask, and we're looking for a mask to drop with 1 red and 1 yellow. So the main target here, you want to make sure you have damage to elites, as much as damage as elites you could possibly can get. You know, the max, of course, the god roll is 55. If you want to find out how to farm that, I have a video on that, so definitely do check that one out. But right now, any high damage to elite that you could possibly can, you're going to want to put into the mask. The other one that we're looking for is skill power. So you want to make sure that your mask also drops with skill power as high as you could possibly get the skill power. That is what you're going to want to be focusing on. Now, the talent we're going to be using here is going to be Spotter. Spotter is going to give us an additional plus 20 weapon damage to pulse enemies. So what we'll be doing is we'll be pulsing the enemy, pulling out our Diamondback, and getting that extra 20% weapon damage when we're pulsing. Now, if for some reason you do have a wave and wear mask and you do not want to apply Spotter here, you could definitely put hard hitting. It's still a very decent one, but for this particular build, I want to recommend Spotter, so it can give you that plus 20% weapon damage, and you can hit that plus 1 million damage when you're shooting your gun. All right, so now let's talk about the backpack. Now, for the backpack, we're going to be going with the 511 Tactical. Now, I was going to pick a different brand set, but the reason I went with the 511 is because it gives us a plus 5 protection from elites, and we're going to be using another one which is going to give us a plus 10 extra incoming healing. Now remember, guys, we have 0 defense, so we're going to need to tap in as much as we can to heals, and the 511 Tactical is going to give us a little bit, so we're going to be definitely going with this one. Alright, so for this particular backpack, guys, we're going to be going with the following attributes. You're going to be looking for a backpack that should drop with 2 reds and 2 yellows. Basically, the backpack will drop 2 reds and 1 yellow, and it'll allow you to put a gear mod, which is another utility mod. Usually the item that you're looking, or the side name brand for this backpack, is called AMP24. So if you're trying to find out if you have any in your inventory, definitely do check out if that's the one you have. For the red attributes in here, guys, you're definitely going to want to make sure you're focusing on the one that has the most critical hit damage. Anything that you could possibly get with a high critical hit damage, that is what you guys want to go. What's going to be our main priority within the attributes, of course, is looking at the red that has the highest critical hit damage. So if you have anything with a high crit hit damage, make sure you guys go ahead and recalibrate it into the backpack so you can get that nice critical hit damage. You're also looking for weapon damage. So basically, theoretically speaking, the ideal roll would be weapon damage, critical hit damage, and skill power. That is what you guys should be focusing on within this backpack. And of course, we're going to be applying a skill mod here, so anything with skill power and pulse skill power is going to be ideal, because remember, we want to make sure our spotter is kicking in as well. Now, another requirement for the backpack, of course, are the talents, and the number 1 requirement here is on the ropes. So on the ropes will require 7 or more utilities. That's the reason why we are requiring the 7 utilities. Spotter requires 5, but since we're already going for 7, that's why the requirement is that high. Now, for those of you who are wondering what the on the rope does, which the majority of you guys should already know, it says weapon damage is increased by plus 25% while all skills are in cooldown or reach 0 charges. Basically, when you guys proc your spotter and you proc another skill, on the ropes will kick in, and it's going to give you that 25%. Remember, we're getting the 20% from spotter we're getting the 25% from on the ropes. That gives us a total of 45% weapon damage just by using those two talents alone. So definitely on the ropes, spotter are a requirement for this build. In addition to that, since we're using this backpack, it's going to allow us to put an extra talent here, and I'm going to tell you guys to go with hard hitting. Remember, this is mostly a PvE build, so hard hitting is going to be very crucial. You want to get as much damage to elites as you possibly can. If your mask had a plus 50 damage to elites and you're getting that extra 10, that's going to put you at 60 damage to elites just off the bat. Now on to the vest, guys. For the vest, once again, we're using the brand set 5.11 Tactical, and you're looking for an item called Tac Light Plate Carrier. Now that's going to give you the ability to have a total of 4 reds in the attribute column and 1 yellow. So the chest piece will be dropping with 2 reds and 1 yellow, and it's going to allow you to put 2 additional more gear mods in here, giving you a total of 4 reds. For the attributes, kind of like the requirement you're looking here is weapon damage, of course, critical hit damage, and skill power. Now, as far as the gear mods are concerned, you want to make sure you're looking for the following. You want to make sure you're looking for mods that are going to stack up a rifle bonus damage. So the most damage you could have with the rifle damage bonus, I believe it's 5, or I don't remember it's 5 or 6, but I think it's 5. So if you have a God Roll one with rifle damage, it should be a 5. I personally only had 1 because I used to dismantle them. I never thought I was going to be using so much of a rifle build. But you want to make sure you're looking for rifle damage bonus here and weapon damage. Those are the main priorities when looking for a gear mod. Now the talent we're going to be using for this best, of course, once again, is hard hitting, giving that additional plus 10% damage to elites. Remember, we're already at 70%. All right, so now onto the gloves. And I know some of you guys have been watching with this build and you're probably wondering, Laser, when are you going to use Overlord for that plus 10 rifle damage? Well, we're going to be using it on the gloves, guys, because we're going to be running a Overlord set for our gloves. Once again, we want to use this because we want to tap into that 10% rifle damage just by using this one pair of gloves. In addition to that, guys, we're looking for a pair of gloves that drops with attributes of 1 red and 1 yellow. The red attribute we're looking for here is rifle damage bonus. We want to make sure we get as high as we possibly can with the rifle damage bonus. I believe the highest is 12. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comment section down below if it's higher or less. Also, we want to make sure we're using the skill power, so we want to make sure we're tapping in the highest attribute we could possibly get with skill power. For the gloves, of course, once again, we're going with a talent called hard hitting, which should already be putting us at 80% damage to elites. In addition to that, guys, this is by far the best talent you could probably use on the gloves. You could probably use something like precise, but I believe hard hitting will be more factable when it comes to using it in PvE content. So now onto the holster. Now for the holster, we're going to be using the Douglas and Harding. This is going to give us a plus 5 accuracy. Of course, accuracy is very important when using a rifle, and you can never say no to 5% accuracy. Even though it's not a lot, it'll help a tad bit. We're going to be going with the one that's called AWE Thing Mag Holster, and this is going to give us the ability of getting the following attributes, which is 1 red, 1 yellow, and having a gear mod slot of 1 red. So the thing we're going to be looking here, guys, is you want to make sure that this holster has critical hit damage. That is your #1 priority with the holster. Make sure it has critical hit damage. You want to make sure you have as much as you possibly can in the critical hit damage category. I believe you could get this all the way up to 14 if I'm correct. And if I'm not, let me know once again in the comment section down below. Your second attribute, of course, is a yellow skill power, as high as you could possibly get that as well. And for the gear mod, guys, once again, we're going for a gear mod that has weapon damage and rifle damage bonus. Now on to the last set, which is the knee pads. Once again, we're going to be using the Douglas and Harding. Reason why we're going with Douglas and Harding is because it's going to give us that extra bonus of plus 10 critical hit damage, and we're using 2 pieces. So we definitely want to tap into that additional 10%. Right here, we're going to be looking for an item called Tay Protective Pads, which are going to give us an option of dropping with 1 yellow attribute and allowing us to put 1 extra gear mod, which is going to be a red. Of course, for the attribute for yellow skill power, get it as high as you possibly can. And once again, for the gear mod, weapon damage and rifle damage is your #1 priority. For the talent on the knee pads, we are going with hard hitting, and this should take us to a total of 90% damage to elites, which makes it extremely amazing. Now for the specialist, guys, we're going to be going with the sharpshooter because you want to tap into that plus 25% headshot damage, and that is going to be making the build very crucial, allowing us to put a lot of damage. Now let's take a look at the stats, guys, for this weapon. So for our max DPS, we're looking and targeting 1.2 million for damage with our Diamondback. We're going to be taking a look at the critical hit damage. We're going to be targeting at least 90 to 100 critical hit damage with this particular build. It's all going to be dependent on the type of mods that you currently have. For all weapon damage, we're going to be rounding up to 30%. And for rifle damage bonus, we're rounding up to 45%. Now, these could go higher. It all just depends on the mods that you guys currently have in your inventory. And the last that we're going to be looking is damage to elites, rounds us off at 90%, making this build by far the best Diamondback build around. Let me know in the comment section down below if you like this build or if you would change anything from what I currently have in the build right now. Also, let me know in the comment section down below. If you haven't had a chance to definitely check out our skill build called the Fireball build, you should definitely check that out. That is by far one of my favorite builds. It's just a really fun build to use, so I highly recommend you guys definitely check it out. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful and informative. If you did, guys, want to ask you for a huge favor, drop a like on this video, share it with your friends, because that does help me out of that. In addition to that, guys, if you want to show additional love and support, consider joining the Bolt Nation. To join, it's super easy. All you have to do is click the link down below where it says join Bolt Nation, and you will be automatically unlocking exclusive features only found in the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget WGATAP, and I will catch you guys on the next video.